Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over your September forecast for the year of 2020. We're going to be going over my temperature anomaly forecast as well as my precipitation anomaly forecast, and then at the end of the video I am going to be going over my overall forecast and then kind of just giving you an overall look at what you should expect for this September. So let's get right into it here with your temperature anomaly forecast for the month of September from September 1st to September 30th. We are looking at some below average conditions or slightly below average conditions in over much of the eastern United States. Now, if you're just in this light blue shade, this is where it's not going to be extremely noticeable, but you will have a couple of chilly spells throughout the month of September. But if you are in this darker blue shade over parts of the northern plains, the northern Great Lakes, as well as parts of northern New England there, that's where you're looking at some moderately below average conditions, and this is where it's going to be much more noticeable, and on average should be about 2 to 4 degrees lower than your normal over the entire month of September. Now, here in this well below average region, in this darkest blue, this is where I'm expecting extremely below average conditions, and you will have a couple of days where you're 15, 20 degrees below your normal. So you will have a couple of days where you're extremely below your normal, and that'll really bring down your averages. And this includes parts of the eastern Dakotas as well as the northern about 3/4 of Minnesota, the northern half of Wisconsin, and also the UP of Michigan there, where you are going to be expecting some well below average conditions in terms of your temperatures. Now, here is your warmer than normal area, and this is for parts of the areas from the Rockies and westward, and then also down through southern Texas, and also for southern and central Florida there. That is where you should expect some slightly above average temperatures for the month of September. And this is where, again, it's not going to be too noticeable if you're just in this yellow shade, but as you get into this orange shade, this is where it's going to be much more noticeable over parts of Idaho, Utah, Arizona, into parts of Nevada, California, Oregon, and Washington there. That's where you should expect moderately above average conditions, and it will be, again, more noticeable throughout these regions. And then we even have a third layer of above average, your well above average region, and this is for parts of much of Oregon there, southwestern Idaho, also for parts of eastern and northern Nevada, and then also for parts of southwestern Utah and northwestern Arizona there. This is kind of a little finger that's going down throughout parts of the southwest, and that is going to be your area where you're expecting some well above average temperatures, and this is going to be an area where it's going to be extremely warm, and most of your days, although you may have a couple days where you're a little bit chillier than normal, but most of the days you will have above average temperatures, and that should look to be kind of the trend for the month of September. Now let's start getting into your precipitation forecast, and then we're going to go into your overall forecast in just a little bit. We are expecting some slightly above average precipitation over parts anywhere from the Tennessee Valley into parts of the Great Lakes, and then also into much of the Northeast there. That's where I'm expecting slightly above average precipitation. We even have a second layer of above average, and that is for parts of the Ozarks, and then also into parts of Illinois and Indiana there, where I am expecting moderately above average precipitation. And I think that's going to be because you have a lot of severe weather events that are going to go through here. You're going to have a lot of storms that move to your north, and usually on the eastern and southern end of these storms, that's where you get the most precipitation, and that's where I think the southern end of these storms are really going to set up over parts of Indiana, Illinois, and Missouri, and then some smaller portions of other states. Now, here is your below average region, and this is for much of the western United States, and then also for parts of the southern and southeastern United States. Now, let's start looking at your overall forecast, and I'm going to be going through each individual color here and showing you what each one represents. So let's start off in the west, and then we'll move further to the east. Drier than normal conditions for parts of Washington, Oregon, and also a little bit of Idaho there. This is where you're not going to have, you are going to have some actually above average temperatures, but it's mainly going to be the drier than normal weather that is really going to be a little bit more profound. You will still have rainfall, and you will still have quite a bit, mainly because of how active the Pacific Northwest usually is on average. You do see a lot of rainfall in those regions on average, so being drier than normal still doesn't mean that you're going to have a lack of rainfall. You will still have an abundance of rainfall, and you will still have a lot of rainfall, but it will be less than what you are typically used to. Now, here in this area of western Montana, northeastern Idaho, and also northwestern Wyoming, that's where I'm expecting mountain snow and most likely a little bit less mountain snow than normal in these regions, drier than normal conditions, as well as some warmer than normal conditions as well, will actually bring your snowfall for those higher elevation regions further down. Now, here in this kind of purple shade and kind of a dark red, this is where I'm expecting hot and dry conditions where it's going to be very, very warm and also quite dry over these regions, and that is for parts of Oregon, Idaho, into Utah, Arizona, and also into Nevada. Now, here in this warm region, for parts of pretty much the entire state of California, and also for western Nevada and western Arizona, that's where I'm expecting just warm conditions, not too dry because I do think you'll have about average precipitation there, but I do think it will still be extremely warm for those regions. And September can still be a fairly warm month, and you can still have multiple days, especially in these regions where you're above 100 degrees or at least approaching 100 degrees, especially in these regions. So September, even though we are moving into the fall months, you still can see some quite warm days. Now, here in this orange shade, this is where I'm expecting warm and dry conditions, and it's not going to be as hot as that kind of purplish red region there over parts of Nevada, Utah, Idaho, and Oregon. But it's still going to be warm, not as warm, but it will definitely be dry in these regions, and that's for pretty much everywhere from the Rockies and a little bit further to the east. Now, here in this kind of gray shade, this is where I'm expecting average conditions. Nothing too notable. You will have a couple cold spells, a couple warmer spells. You will be actually in this region slightly drier than normal, but nothing that's going to be too substantial over these regions. Now, in this yellow shade, this is where I'm expecting conditions to kind of go from cold to warm, and from very wet periods to very dry periods. So it's going to be kind of all over the place, and that's your flip-flop region. So it's going to go from cold to warm and kind of just flip the pattern every couple of days. Now, in this kind of pink shade over parts of the Gulf Coast and also for the southeast coast, this is where I'm expecting some very active tropics and potentially a couple of landfalling tropical storms or hurricanes. And I can't forecast where these tropical storms, of course, are gonna make landfall this far out. But definitely the entire Gulf Coast and southeast coast, and potentially up the east coast, depending on some of these tracks, should be on alert and at least monitoring the tropics. And I personally check the National Hurricane Center's website every day, and I think you guys should too if you do live in this pink region, because the tropics can really change so quickly that you really have to be in the know. Now, here in this kind of lighter blue region, this is where I'm expecting cool and wet conditions, and this is kind of the area in between this pink region and the red region to the north. This is where it's not going to be as cold, but still fairly chilly for this time of year, and it will be slightly above average in terms of your precipitation, so it will be cool and wet for these regions. In this red shade, or kind of a darker pink, this is where I'm expecting severe weather to be mainly focused throughout this region. I think this is going to be the heart of the severe weather. You can still get severe weather outside of this region, but I do think it is going to be kind of centered throughout these regions. Now, here in this darker blue shade, and kind of a medium blue, this is where I'm expecting cooler than normal conditions, a little bit more intense than the lighter blue, but still, it's not going to be extremely chilly. But I do think you will have frequent colder air blasts, especially as you get some of these dragging cold fronts from these big low pressure systems up in southern Canada, that can really bring down quite a bit of cold air into these regions over parts of the Midwest and also the Great Lakes. Now, in this purple region, I am expecting Arctic air, and this is just where I think it's going to be even colder throughout these regions, and it's going to be a little bit more consistent with that cooler air over parts of the eastern Dakotas, also for northern or for pretty much all of Minnesota, and then also northern Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan there. And then here, this is the final layer here, and this is where I'm expecting generally cold conditions for parts of the Northeast, where it is going to be below normal in terms of your temperatures, and you will actually see some above average precipitation. So you will have quite a bit of storms moving through here, and they will bring some cooler air with them. So generally, I think it is going to be colder over parts of the Northeast. Now, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.